Hey folks, Rob Hannes here, the Preparedness Podcast, the podcast that brings you the best in preparedness information. You can find us online at thepreparednesspodcast.com. You can follow us on Twitter at Prepcast. You can like us on Facebook at Preparedness Podcast. And if you'd like to get a hold of me directly, you can email me at rob@prepcast.info. Back in October of last year, we talked about the sun oven and solar cooking, and I had Paul Munson come on and tell us about it. Recently, just last month, April 2013, they released a new all-American sun oven. It's got some improvements over the previous model. It seems like a really great improvement. It's bigger. It has focusing, so you can make sure you're looking at the sun and stuff. And so instead of me trying to, go over this stuff and kind of highlight it, I thought I'd have Paul come back on and talk about it. And so I've got the interview here with that. Now, to me, when I look for solutions for my preparedness plan, when I look at ways of solving things, I look for items, I look for products, I look for solutions that really, really stand out from the rest of the crowd. I'm looking for stuff that serves several purposes. Unit taskers are not preferred over multitaskers. And I really think the sun oven hits those things. You can cook with it, you can dehydrate with it, you can make water safe to drink with it. And those are three very big aspects of preparedness. Additionally, you don't need to buy and store fuel to power this thing because it uses to power the sun. Definitely worth looking into, definitely worth being part of your prep plan. I've seen these. I actually haven't personally used them, but I've been at little meetup groups where we've done stuff with them, so I've seen how they worked. I've seen them pasteurize water, and I've drinking that water. I've seen it cook food and stuff, and it's great. It really is a great little unit. It is on my to-buy list as soon as my prep budget allows for that. This is one of the items that I am getting. And now that the new version has come out, I'm definitely looking forward to getting one of these as well because it's a little bit bigger, which means that I can cook some food and heat up some water or even pasteurize some water at the same time so that I can clean up when I'm done eating and clean up the dishes and have hot water to wash my hands and all that stuff that we use hot water for. If you didn't catch the last podcast that we did with Paul, he talked about that it's not just one of those things that you have to use when it's warm out. I think one of the big misconceptions is that you can only use it if it's warm outside, and that's not true. So not only is it a sun oven that uses the sun that you don't have to provide fuel for, but you can use it anytime, anywhere where you have enough sun to at least cast a shadow. Now, cloudy days make it a little bit longer to cook with than sunny days, but the temperature isn't the issue. The sun oven is insulated enough, and it creates enough heat inside that you can use it if you're in the winter. It's maybe 0 degrees, 10 degrees, whatever. As long as you have that nice, bright, sunny day, it's going to be great. Even a partially sunny day, you're still going to be able to use it. And that, to me, extends the versatility of it. So let me go ahead and bring the interview on with Paul because Paul explains this very well. And right now, he is extending a $70 off coupon to the Preparedness Podcast listeners. And if you go to the page, click on the banner, you're going to be taken to the Preparedness Podcast page on the Sun Oven site. You're going to see the package. You're going to see what you get. You're going to see the discount right there. Good stuff. Check it out. And without further ado, here's my interview with Paul. So with me on the Skype line is Paul Munson from Sun Oven, and I've invited Paul to come back on and talk to us about his latest Sun Oven. It's creating quite a buzz in the prepper community, so I wanted to have Paul on and have him tell us all about it. Paul, welcome back to the podcast.
Oh, good to be with you again.
So the totally new All-American Sun Oven came out a few months ago. Tell us about it.
Right. It's just been on the market since April 1st, and the new All-American Sun Oven is just got some improvements that make it a little more user-friendly and easier to use than the Global Sun oven. The cooking in both ovens is pretty much the same, so there's not anything really different with that. The new All-American Sun oven is about 20% bigger and accommodates standard 9 by 12, 9 by 13 pots or bakeware, and also has cubes on it that make it a little bit easier to focus, to align it with the sun, and it's got a T-shaped leg on the back of the oven that give it a lot more stability on a windy day, and the T-shaped leg, for people in extremely windy areas, is able to be, it comes with a couple stakes to allow it to be staked into the ground so it doesn't blow over on a windy day. And the glass on it is what's called ultra white glass, which filters less sun out and allows more sun to get into the oven chamber, as well as it's 25% thicker, which makes it quite a bit more durable and forms a little bit tighter seal.
Wow, those sound some good improvements. I like the 20% bigger, using the more conventional or probably more of the pots and pans that we have, in the household itself.
Right. The one nice thing about the Sun oven, most homemade solar cookers or some of the knockoffs of the Sun oven that are sold on the market, you have to use a black enamel pot to cook in it. The one nice thing about the Sun oven is it gets hot enough that anything that's oven safe can be used inside of it. So if people want to use a 9 by 12 casserole dish, or people like cooking in glassware like Corningware or Pyrex, anything they want to use, they can use in the Sun oven. The Global Sun oven, which has been on the market since 1986 and is really well tested and does an incredible job, was just a tad bit too small to accommodate standard 9 by 12 pans. And in the 15 years I've been making the Sun oven, it's probably the number one thing people have asked me is there any way to make it just a little bit bigger to be able to accommodate 9 by 12 pans. And the other thing that's new in the All-American Sun oven is that both Sun ovens have a leveling tray, that if you raise the Sun oven up to meet the sun on where it is in the horizon, your food stays level and doesn't spill. The new All-American Sun oven, the leveling tray is made of wire, and if you want to make something bigger in the oven, it just folds up and you can put it in the bottom of the oven to raise the food up so they have airflow all the way around it, and you can actually make up to a 21-pound turkey in the new All-American Sun oven.
That's awesome. That is great, and I definitely like the 9 by 12. It's one of the most common baking pans, so that works out really well. Now you've got this ultra white glass. I don't think I've heard of that before, but with the increased transmission of sunlight, does the new Sun oven get hotter than the old one?
It gets a little bit hotter. It's bigger on the inside, so what the glass does is allows the bigger area to maintain the same temperature. So it filters less sun, so it allows it to preheat the oven. I mean, you'll get it up to 300 degrees in about 20 minutes in good sun as far as preheating, and then because it filters less sun, you can heat the larger area and do it in about the same time as with the Global Sun oven.
That's really not that bad. I mean, I think it takes my gas oven about 10, maybe 12 minutes to heat up to 350. So heating to 300 with just the sun is very impressive.
Yeah, it's really, it doesn't take long. The Sun oven is so well insulated. Most people think of solo cooking as something that you can only do that's slow, and that many people have had experience where their kids have a science fair project and they make some sort of a solo cooker, and you can cook a hot dog in 2 hours. Well, in the Sun oven, on sunny days, it preheats both the All-American and the Global Sun oven will preheat to about 300 degrees in 20 minutes, and then your cooking time is only 15 minutes longer. If you refocus the oven every 30 minutes to follow the sun, then your cooking time is only 15 minutes longer than cooking on your stovetop or in your regular oven. We say it's 15 minutes longer for each time you open the door of the oven. So if you can make a pot of rice that would normally take you 30 minutes on the stovetop. If you preheat the oven and you put the food in it, it'll take about 45 minutes in the sun oven. Or a 3-pound chicken, if you refocus it every 30 minutes, will cook in an hour and a half. So cooking times in the sun oven, because it gets so much hotter, really is not all that much longer than cooking in a conventional oven or stovetop.
You also have the added benefit of there is no additional fuel being used. You don't have to worry about supplying a ready supply of fuel to keep a stove or an oven going. You don't have to worry about heating up the house and stuff because you're using it outside with the sun. It's a renewable source of energy, so it makes a lot of sense. You mentioned the science project that the kids do. My kids did do that. They, in fact, I think all of them did it. And when they went through that same grade, they had to build the solar hot dog cooker. Took a shoebox and, lined it with foil. And by the time they got done with the foil was all crinkly. There wasn't any smooth parts to the foil. And they were amazed that it worked. And I'm like, well, I mean, it's a good demonstration to show kids what is possible with the sun and stuff. And you've just taken it to the next level with the sun oven, and now the all-American sun oven is even new and improved with the bigger space and the better glass and stuff. Tell me how this focusing device works. I looked at it, and I have to be honest, I'm not really sure I understand how I use it to focus the sun oven towards the sun.
Well, basically, if you just point the All-American Sun Oven towards the sun, there's 2 cubes that are mounted onto the glass, and both of the cubes have 2 holes in them. The hole on the top is a little larger than the hole on the bottom, and when you point it towards the sun, when the sun shines through the top hole, if you look inside the cube, you just want to have the bead of light that you see through the top hole be right over the bottom hole and be centered over the bottom hole. And the reason there's 2 cubes is some people like using the sun oven, just setting it on the ground to cook. Some prefer putting it on a table. And one of the cubes, if you're standing behind it, if it's on the ground, you can see exactly how to have it focused when you have the sun shining through the top hole and just center it over the bottom hole. The other cube is designed so that if you're standing next to it on a table, you could see it. So it accommodates from both sitting on the ground or on the table. And people sometimes have a hard time estimating where, when you raise the sun oven up to meet the sun. Oftentimes when people call me or ask why their sun oven isn't getting up to temperature, people have a tendency to overuse the leg in the back that allows you to meet the sun on the horizon. And with when you can use this cube, then that takes the guesswork out of that completely.
Well, that's great, because I know the other sun oven, you're right, I have heard people talk, and I've seen some comments about, how to focus it, and not really sure if it's doing it properly, because you want to get it centered on the sun so that all the energy is going right where you want it to be. So that's great.
Mm-hmm. It really works well. And, sun ovens are phenomenal for cooking. A lot of people are, they're great for emergency preparedness, but I was teaching a class in Arizona, and a gentleman told me that he had gotten his sun oven for preparedness, but he started using it on a regular basis, and he kept track of how much he used it and how much he saved on his utility bills, and he said he paid for it in a little less than 9 months, and then he continued to keep track of how much he saved by using his sun oven, and the money he saved on his utility bills, he would then use to fund his food storage and emergency preparedness supplies. So in times when budgets are tight, you can save enough. You save some on cooking fuel. Typically, an American family spends about 14% of their utility budget on cooking fuel. But the real savings is in air conditioning. On a day when it's over 80 degrees, if you turn on your oven to bake bread, you'll actually spend more money to cool your house than you do for the cost of the bread and the energy to cook it. So if you can bake the bread outside or make the roast outside and don't heat up the house, the sun oven will pay for itself in a really short period of time. And from a preparedness perspective, a lot of people store food for a year, but it's pretty much impossible to store fuel. So if you have a sun oven and you can use it on the days when it's sunny, then the amount of fuel you need to store is quite a bit less.
Exactly. And here in Arizona, we have a lot of sun, which would suggest that it's a great area to use the sun oven with. However, the last time we talked, you made it pretty clear that no, it doesn't have to be a very sunny or a very warm location. Now, of course, the sun oven doesn't work quite as well when it's partially overcast or mostly overcast. But just because your stories about the guy in Arizona who saved the money doesn't mean that it works only in the climates. You were very clear when we talked last time about how it's very useful up in the northern climates, even when it's a cold, wintry day. If I remember correctly, it's like anything over 40 degrees, you can still use it just as normal.
Well, actually, the temperature has no effect, so it can be 0 and sunny. The key in the days you can use the sun oven is there has to be enough sun to cast a shadow to use it. So if it's overcast to the point that you can't see a shadow, then you can't cook in the sun oven. But as long as you can see a shadow, then you can cook in it. Ice fishermen in Minnesota put them on frozen lakes in the winter, and it can be 10 below 0 and sunny, and the sun oven performs fine as long as there's enough sun to cast a shadow. So it can be used year-round. Depending on where people are in the United States, we make the ovens near Chicago, and pretty much in the Midwest, areas like Chicago, you can use a sun oven about 60% of the days, as opposed to places like Denver, where you can use a sun oven about 82% of the days. So it is something that, but even in Denver, when it's cold and sunny, which oftentimes happens in the winter, it's a phenomenal way to cook in the sun oven.
Right, and I think that's a very important aspect to understand about the sun oven is that it doesn't matter about temperature. My mistake on it being 40 degrees, great to know that it doesn't really matter because it makes it a far more versatile utility for preppers because you don't have to worry about, well, I can only do it when it's above, 60 degrees or something. Now you've got a couple packages for sale with this. Can you tell us what comes with the packages?
Yeah, the package that is advertised now we call a dehydrating and a preparedness package, and it comes with a set of baking and dehydrating racks. They're 3-wire racks that go inside the sun oven. If you want to make multiple layers of things that you bake, like cookies or flatbreads or quiches, you can do that. Do several of them on those racks, but also they can be used for dehydrating. And the dehydrating racks come with a roll of parchment paper, and if you just put a piece of parchment paper down on each level, then you can use the sun oven as a solar dryer or solar dehydrator. And many people have electric dehydrators, which work wonderfully. I mean, my wife has one and loves using it. But the nice thing from a preparedness standpoint is that if you were ever at a point where you were there was no power at the time your garden's ready to be harvested, if you're able to use the sun to then dry your food, dehydrate your foods. If there's any point that you would want to make sure you were, capitalizing on your garden to create your own food storage, it would be at a time when there was no power, and the sun oven works wonderfully as a dryer or dehydrator. Also, with drying and dehydrating, hunters like using it for jerky, things that have a little bit of an odor that you don't necessarily want to dry in a place that might put the smell in the house. It's great to use a sun oven because you can put it outdoors a little ways. It also comes with a water pasteurization indicator, and you can boil water in the sun oven to purify it for drinking, but at most altitudes, water boils at 212 degrees Fahrenheit, and it takes as much energy to bring water from 200 to 212 as it does from the ambient temperature up to 200. So when those last 12 degrees take a lot of energy, when you pasteurize water, you just bring it to a temperature above 159 degrees Fahrenheit for 6 minutes. That kills all the germs in the water, but Normally, if you're just pasteurizing, you wouldn't know that the water was at that temperature. And there's a little device that comes with the preparedness package, the dehydrating preparedness package with the sun oven, called a WAPI, or a water pasteurization indicator, that lets you know that the water is pasteurized, and it can be reused hundreds of times. And that comes with the package, as well as a set of stackable pots. If you want to cook two different things at the same time, there's 2 3-quart pots that stack on top of each other so that you can cook two different things in the sun oven at one time, if you choose to. And then it also comes with a set of bread pans. And one of the really unique features of the new All-American sun oven is the computer software CD that comes with it. We've taken 600 recipes that have been developed just for the sun oven, and they've been merged into what's called the Cookin' software, which is an incredible software package. It allows, if, for example, our recipe has a portion for 5 people and you wanted it for 7, it will just realign the portions of everything. You can search by any individual ingredient. So if you have something on hand you want to see what you could put it into, you can search that way to include certain ingredients or exclude certain ingredients. If you set up once what you normally keep at home for cooking and baking, the software then will give you a shopping list of anything you don't normally have at home. And if you're really into high-tech things, it actually will download that shopping list to your smartphone, and if you enter the store you're going to, it gives you an aisle-by-aisle shopping list. And in addition, there's Prepare for Life software on there, which is a whole emergency preparedness planning program that has different forms to help you budget your emergency preparedness, keep track of the inventory of things you have with food storage and emergency preparedness, and come up with a whole personalized plan of emergency preparedness. And the software, if you go to the Cookin' website, sells for $89, and that's included with the All-American sun oven, as well as a set of bread pans. So it's a complete package that's included with the sun oven. And on your website, we have an ad that would give a link to your listeners to allow them to save $70 on the new All-American sun oven with the package.
Yes, and that's a great deal. I appreciate you extending that to the listeners. So, folks, if you're interested in getting one, which we've talked about a couple times now, why this is such a great idea, go to thepreparednesspodcast.com, look for the sun oven banner, click on it, and it'll take you right to the page, and it'll show you what you get, the package, and you'll see that the difference in just the oven and everything you get when the preparedness and dehydrating package is quite a difference, and for not that much more money between the two. Now, getting back to the WAPI, I love this WAPI, and I think one of the like added value perks of the sun oven is how it can pasteurize water. Having clean water to drink is always a concern of preppers, and you can filter it, you can clean it however you want to, but there's always that concern, especially when you're dealing with raw water. Gee, did I kill everything, or is it sterile, or is it safe to drink? And by pasteurizing it, which is a well-timed, tested procedure, you can make your water safe to drink. Now, with the bigger sun oven, I imagine you can do more quarts of water at once. But this WAPI indicator, it just occurred to me, does the wax in this melt when the water is pasteurized, or do you need to time it for 6 minutes?
No, it melts when the water is pasteurized, so that, once you see the wax, it's a green wax that's in a tube, and once that goes to the bottom of the tube, then the water is safe to drink. And what's nice is if you take the WAPI out of the water, the wax will harden in less than 2 minutes, and you can reuse the WAPI hundreds of times. I've done projects in Haiti going back 3 years later, and they're still using the same WAPI every day for 3 years. So, you can do a lot of water. What some people will do is keep a piece of cheesecloth with their sun oven, and then, if need be, they could pour water through the cheesecloth that would take any solid impurities out of it, and then you can pasteurize the water in the sun oven to kill the germs. And, another great use of the sun oven, by the way, is hot water. And as I talk to people about their preparedness plans, almost nobody has a plan for hot water. People have plans for drinking water, but, an average American household uses more energy every day for hot water than they do for cooking. And think of the number of times in a typical day you turn on your water faucet for things like personal hygiene or to do dishes. And the sun oven, one of the nice things about the All-American sun oven is it's big enough so that you could be cooking in the two pots, and you could take 2 quart-sized canning jars and just set it next to it either to cook side dishes, or when it comes to water, what you could do is be heating the water to do your dishes at the same time you're cooking. So it's, the number of times in a day that people need hot water is pretty significant. And if people want to heat water for things like doing dishes using something like butane, you'll use a third of a can of butane for just one pot of water for dishes, where if you can use a sun oven for the hot water as well as your drinking water, it's a huge savings in the amount of fuel that you need to store and burn.
Yeah, well, it's definitely one of those solutions for your preparedness plan that covers so many different aspects that definitely worth having one. And, from making hot water, pasteurizing the water, cooking your food, dehydrating. Now, has the method for dehydrating the same where you just leave the window glass on top of the little flip lock to have a little bit of a space there?
Exactly. It's exactly the same. When we cook in the sun oven, there's latches that latch the glass down to form an airtight seal. When we dehydrate, you just turn one of the latches in, set the glass on top of it. That lets the moist air escape and keeps the temperature from getting too hot inside the sun oven. And so it, if you sealed it, it would get too hot and the moisture wouldn't have a place to go. And so it's very simple to dehydrate in the sun oven. What's nice is if you are dehydrating something like jerky that might take more than 1 day to dehydrate, overnight all you have to do is take the latch, leave whatever you're drying in the sun oven, latch the latch tight. That forms an airtight seal and suspends the drying process overnight. And then the next day you can take it out and put it back in the sun and let it finish drying.
Yeah, again, another advantage to having the sun oven as part of your cooking preps. Well, Paul, I want to thank you for taking your time out of your day to talk with us and tell us about the new sun oven. Sounds like some really great improvements over an already great product, and I'm sure people are looking forward to checking them out. And folks, if you want to check out the new All-American sun oven, you can go to thepreparednesspodcast.com. On the right-hand side, you're going to see the banner for the sun oven. Click there. It'll take you to a page that explains what the improvements are, what comes with the package, and the discount. Paul, thanks again, and have a great day.
Thank you. Good to be with you. Take care.
Again, my thanks to Paul for coming on and talking with us about the sun oven, the new improved All-American sun oven. It's definitely one of those solutions that I think fits for most people's preparedness plan when it comes to cooking in a survival situation or a prep-related situation. But that's going to wrap it up for this podcast. So until next time, make sure you enjoy life, stay prepared, and be safe.